Uncovering History, George Washington's infamous friendly fire site found. The revelation of a significant historical site is making waves. Experts at Fort Ligonier have potentially located the site of a notorious incident in George Washington's career, famously referred to as a friendly fire event. Fort Ligonier image by Huck Beard. Meet Charlie Fagan, a passionate historian from Ligonier who turned his interest into a lifelong mission to discover the exact spot of this friendly fire event in which George Washington was involved. His son, Chas Fagan, reflects, "This quest became deeply personal for my father, which naturally rubbed off on me as well." Instead of reading storybooks at bedtime, his father regaled him with tales from American history, sparking a fascination that transcended typical childhood narratives. In what many are calling their most significant finding in the last 6 decades, the period since the fort's original identification, scholars at Fort Ligonier, nestled in Westmoreland County, https://www.fortligonier.org, now claim to have determined the location of Washington's notorious friendly fire incident during the French and Indian War. Charlie Fagan was never ready to accept that the site of this significant event had remained a mystery. His enthusiasm was contagious, prompting many others, led by his son, to embark on the search for answers. The excitement spread like wildfire, Chas explains. Matt Galt, the director of education at Fort Ligonier, elaborates on what transpired. In November of 1758, Virginian troops sought shelter near Loyalhanna. Faced with the challenging decision, they chose to winter there instead of advancing and risking conflicts with the French over the Fort Duquesne, dealing with harsh weather and weakened soldiers. On November 12, that same year, French forces, alongside their indigenous allies, attacked Loyalhanna. Colonel George Mercer ordered his troops to take a stand in defense. When gunfire erupted, Washington believed it was the signal to rally his men to support Mercer's forces. However, with a heavy fog blanketing the area, Washington inaccurately identified his allies as enemies, mistakenly thinking that French and indigenous troops were positioned between his regiment and Mercer's men. Tragically, he ordered his troops to fire upon what he thought was the enemy. It wasn't until he caught a glimpse of the red and blue uniforms, his own troops, that the gravity of his mistake hit him. Overcome with horror, Washington sprinted forward, using his sword to deflect the firing muskets, but his frantic efforts did little to prevent over 40 casualties resulting from the chaotic incident. In his own reflective writings, watercolorist Washington, who referred to himself in the third person as GW, stated, "There occurred a circumstance that endangered the life of GW more than ever before or after." This dramatic event inspired Chas Fagan's painting titled Flashpoint, which is currently displayed at the Fort Ligonier Museum. The incident is believed to have unfolded about 2 miles from the fort itself, though the exact spot remains undisclosed to the public since it lies on private property. This newfound discovery has transformed the area into a focal point for archaeological research led by Jonathan Burns, who directs the Veterans Archaeology program at Juniata College and is also the head of the Cultural Resource Institute there. Since 2022, this dedicated team, composed of volunteers, veterans, and students, has been meticulously investigating the site, armed with permission from the owners to use metal detectors, ground-penetrating radars, and traditional excavation tools, all in the hope of uncovering more artifacts that could illuminate the details surrounding this tragic event. The growing collection of findings is providing those affiliated with Fort Ligonier a much clearer historical narrative and also bolstering their efforts to withstand potential scrutiny from military historians as they work to officially designate the area. They have uncovered buttons, bullets, and buckles, as well as what they refer to as screw and spill evidence, which indicates the reloading processes between shots. Burns is prepared to present a comprehensive series of charts supported by data that articulate the precise location of the conflict, including the probable direction of the attack and potential burial sites of the casualties. Despite the event taking place centuries ago, Burns notes that the artifacts are surprisingly close to the surface, suggesting that previous investigations simply hadn't dug deep enough. They plan to persist in their work at the location for the foreseeable future, with intentions to publish their studies and findings in the coming years as this project advances. "I'm confident in saying we have thoroughly investigated this site," Burns stated. "We've pulled together various lines of evidence to substantiate our claim that we have identified the precise location of this significant event." What do you think about the revelation of this historical site? Could this discovery change how we view Washington's early military career? Share your thoughts and let's discuss. George Washington's heroic act, preventing friendly fire in the French and Indian War. Imagine a young George Washington, decades before becoming the first U.S. president, risking his life to stop his own troops from killing each other. This isn't a fictional tale, it's a recently unearthed chapter of American history. Archaeologists in Pennsylvania have pinpointed the exact location where, in 1758, Washington bravely intervened in a deadly friendly fire incident during the French and Indian War. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. This moment, often overshadowed by his later achievements, reveals a critical turning point in Washington's leadership journey. And this is the part most people miss. It wasn't just about stopping the gunfire. It was about learning from a mistake that would shape his future as a commander and a nation's leader. Led by archaeologist Jonathan Burns of Juniata College, a team has been excavating private land near Fort Ligonier since 2021. Using drones, metal detectors, and computer-aided mapping, they've uncovered hundreds of 18th-century artifacts, musket balls, buttons, nails, buckles, ammunition, and even a French watch key. These discoveries, reported by the New York Times' Jennifer Schuessler, align perfectly with historical accounts of troop movements, confirming the site's significance. "This is extremely nationally significant," Burns told CBS News' Christopher Derris. "It's not only a historic event but also involves a historic individual. It doesn't get any more significant than George Washington here in this county." What makes this discovery even more compelling is the involvement of veterans in the excavation through Juniata's Veterans Archaeology program. Burns explains, "These folks have been in firefights and understand what it's like to be isolated in an area where the enemy has the upper hand." Their unique perspective adds depth to the interpretation of this historical battlefield. The incident itself, described in a biography by Colonel David Humphreys, Washington's friend and aide, occurred on a foggy evening in November 1758. Two groups of Virginia soldiers, Washington's and Lieutenant Colonel George Mercer's, mistook each other for enemies in the woods. The resulting chaos led to dozens injured and multiple deaths, with estimates ranging from 13 to nearly 40. Washington, in a daring act, rode between the lines, using his sword to block the muskets and halt the gunfire. Humphreys wrote that Washington never was in more imminent danger than at that moment. But here's the controversial part. Was Washington's heroism enough to overshadow the leadership missteps that led to the friendly fire in the first place? Some historians argue that the incident highlights Washington's early struggles with command, while others see it as a testament to his courage and quick thinking. What do you think? Was this a moment of failure or a pivotal lesson in leadership? Adding another layer to the story, historian David Preston revealed in 2019 that Washington may have fired the first shot of the French and Indian War in 1754, a detail often overlooked in history books. This war, the North American theater of the global 7 Years' War, was fought over control of territory, trade, and influence in the Ohio River Valley. Washington, leading a British regiment from Virginia, gained invaluable experience that would later shape his leadership during the American Revolution and his presidency. Humphreys' biography, written around 1786, provides rare insight into Washington's early military career. Interestingly, Washington edited the manuscript and instructed Humphreys to destroy it. Thankfully, Humphreys disobeyed, preserving the document, which is now housed at Fort Ligonier. The biography describes the friendly fire incident in detail, noting that the mistaken identity was caused by poor visibility and lack of communication. Ironically, the chaos led to the capture of 3 French soldiers who revealed Fort Ligogner's vulnerability, ultimately aiding the British advance. Artifacts from the site are now on display at Fort Ligonier alongside Washington's edited manuscript, known as his Remarks. Matthew Gault, Fort Ligonier's Director of Education, reflects on the significance of this discovery. We get to open the pages of history and pull back the veil in a moment and place in George Washington's life that is often overlooked. Washington's only official record of the skirmish was a brief entry in his orderly book, but his notes on Humphrey's manuscript suggest it was a deeply meaningful experience for him. Gault adds, "He has just won the American Revolution, and now he's about to become president of a new nation." And here he is reflecting on a moment where he made a mistake. This reflection raises a thought-provoking question. How do leaders learn from their failures, and how does that shape their future success? As we uncover more about this forgotten chapter, it invites us to reconsider Washington's legacy, not just as a hero, but as a human who learned from his mistakes. What lessons can we draw from this story for our own lives and leadership? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going.